Didn't expect this.
Well, on some level you did. You're readier than you think you are to understand.
Yeah. Pain's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
I don't sleep well at night.
Yeah.
It's getting better. At least I keep telling that to myself. But it's still strong. And I just don't know what to do.
Well, we like this topic because it's really everything that we've been talking about already today, which is when energy flows and is hindered, it causes pain. In the same way that when energy flows and it is hindered, it causes negative emotion. So when there is a desire that you're moving in the direction of, then you don't even have to catch up with it. You just have to be moving in the direction of it. Your belief doesn't even have to be moving as fast as your desire is, just moving in the direction of it, and then there's not resistance. But if your belief is doubt, and we're not talking about it being on the subject of the physical discomfort, we're talking about it being about anything. This will help you to understand where we're going next. Talking to a man the other day who has invented a new and improved barbecue contraption. And he has all kinds of great ideas about it and plans for it, and is not happy with the way things are going. So we were talking about satisfaction and the benefit that that gives you, because when in any moment in time you are satisfied, that means you're not pushing against anything. And so when you're in a satisfied moment, you're really allowing whatever is in your vortex to continue to flow, and your likelihood of receiving good ideas about it, which is the fun part of creation, is greater also. But what we clarified in our conversation with him, he thought he had to be satisfied about how the barbecue venture was going. And we said, no, you're better off not to think about that at all. Just find something to be satisfied about. Well, the thing is, it's hard for most people when they've got something they're really working on, like a relationship or a physical condition or a new project. It's hard not to give it a lot more attention than it really needs. And often the attention that you give it works against you rather than for you. So when you start thinking about everything being about energy flowing, and you especially think about your physical apparatus being a vessel that flows energy, and you realize that your thoughts are what really matter, because your thoughts are the gateways to whether the energy is being allowed to flow in the direction of your desires. You see, as you came into this physical body and you continue to evolve, this vortex where your inner being is calling you forward all the time. Your inner being is attracting by law of attraction. We know this is a little out there, but hear us. It really is an explanation about how the universe works. Law of attraction is calling all, gathering all, attracting all cooperative components. And since you are the creator of all of this, you are the most logical component to be considered, to be wanted, to be cooperative. You cannot ever separate from the you that you have created. Does that make sense to you? And if you're not going with the flow of the you that you've created, then you're causing a tension that first starts out as negative emotion. If you keep it up, it gets stronger. If you keep keeping it up, eventually it leads to physical discomfort. So here's what we would do if we were in your physical body with you and feeling the physical discomfort. We would say to ourselves, this means help's on the way. Because what it means is source is calling and you're just not going. If you could relax into it, give into the pain rather than resisting it, rather than thinking that it means something's wrong, instead say it's an indicator that's helping me. And if I can just relax into it. For example, let's say that there are 10 thoughts that you might be thinking about, 10 important subjects in your life, and half of them feel pretty satisfying when you think about them, and the other half don't. Well, with a little bit of meditation, you'll find it easier and easier to approach the subjects that feel most satisfying. It's sort of like when you sit in front of your television, you know the programs that please you and you know the ones that don't, and you don't have a lot of difficulty making the choices in that. So relative to your physical body, if you could think about how your inner being has summoned all cooperative components and is actually calling the consciousness of your cells into well-being. And if your inner being were not, by your request, calling the consciousness of your cells, are we too far out for you? You accept your cells have consciousness? Calling the consciousness of your cells into their new becoming. If that weren't happening, you'd feel no pain. So two things would stop the pain. If you weren't asking for improvement, which is your inner being calling it, or if you weren't resisting the improvement that is being called for. So that's why we say, if you can relax into it, see it as a good sign. Oh, this means help's on the way. This means my cells are awake and alert and moving toward. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. So that you're not tensing against it and wishing it would go away. You're actually relaxing into it and just letting it be. We're not asking you to get rid of negative emotion. We're just asking you to think thoughts where negative emotion doesn't apply. We're just asking you to change the direction of your thought, and we know the negative emotion will go away. And we're just asking you to change the direction of your thought, and we know the pain will go away. This is law of attraction, universe. It's law of inclusion. There's no law of exclusion. So you can't push anything away. So when you think about the things you don't want and you try to push them away, they don't go away, they just get bigger. So now we want to say to you, it's not your thoughts about your body that are the reason for your pain. It's your thoughts about things that you're worried about. It's the things you worry about. It's the unsatisfying thoughts you have. And most of them, you would be shocked to realize how really insignificant in the scope of your life they really are. People make mountains out of molehills. You make big deals out of things that aren't big deals. And part of it is because you've been trained to find a problem and solve it. But when you find a problem, you make it bigger. And you've already long ago put the solution into the vortex, and source energy has already solved the problem. But the vibration of the solution and the vibration of the problem are two different frequencies. So is this making some sense to you?
Yeah.
So you're looking for a practical application.
I've been dying to try to ask you this one thing. My experiences from the past, about 30 years ago, I got hit on the head, and it caused an experience for me to experience, which was pure ecstasy, because I forgot who I was, a living, breathing human being. And it took me a couple years later to realize, once I came out of all this, that I experienced this. And I think I think that has something to do with it.
It does, and this is what it has to do with it. You tasted the sweetness of pure alignment, and you've been mad at every moment that you're not in that ever since. And wouldn't anybody be? Wouldn't anybody be? And then blaming yourself. Can somebody just hit me over the head again? How can I get back to that? But this is what we're talking about here today. How you get back to that is just a little bit at a time, just going a little easier on yourself. And really, now this is a really good time to talk about meditation, because most people really don't get what we mean by it at all. Because you know how we talked about 20 years, you took it 30, but you know what we talked about. So we're talking about the things that you keep updating, that you keep using as your excuse to not go with the flow of who you really are. And most everybody does it to one extent or another. What happens is that as you're observing life experience and then letting what you're observing be the reason for the active vibration, often you pinch yourself off is too strong a word, but you hinder the natural flow of who you are. And so when you realize that your life experience has caused you to become more, and that you want to go in the direction of it, then what we're talking about is getting up to speed with who you've become, and nothing else will do. The reason that we talk about meditation is because you've got these beliefs that are in the way. And your beliefs, you didn't make them up. They're based upon experiences that you've lived. And they make sense to you, and you keep renewing them. But the fact is, you have beliefs that are not valid, that are in the way of what is valid. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to sort that out, because there are what you call in your legal terms there's evidence or circumstantial evidence, or there's peer group pressure, or there's historical data. In other words, there are all kinds of things that don't have anything to do with you that you tend to believe that just are not important or necessary. So what we've noticed is we've been playing with you all for a very long time, longer than you know. What we've noticed is that while we can help you bridge those beliefs, in fact, that's some of what the processes of the past life regression and things are about, is people trying to help you bridge beliefs or find a new way of looking at things. But what we've noticed is that for the most part, when you give your attention to anything, it just causes that belief to dig in a little more. For example, have you ever had the experience where you have a friend or an acquaintance, and you have opposing opinions about something, and both of you visit with each other with the desire and intention of changing the other one's mind and getting them to see your point of view? But have you noticed that usually the more you talk, the more they dig in, the more they do not move in the direction of your much more logical. And so what we want you to realize is that you're doing that to yourself all the time. You're digging in with beliefs that work against your now desires, and it's not necessary that you do that. So that's why we teach meditation, because meditation, all we mean by meditation is giving your brain a break for a minute, suspending the habit of thought about everything, just enough to give you an opportunity to maybe think a different thought. Meditation is just a quieting of the mind, and not for very long every day. Sit for 15 or 20 minutes and you might get 2 or 3 minutes of a quieted mind. And if you do that, good work.